Hello students, welcome to the online classes. So here you have successfully completed your SSLC examinations and you have stepped to your PU classes now. So this will be your class of first PUC and I'm Jayanti AK, your chemistry lecturer. So you need not panic about the subject. However, whatever you have studied in your high school classes, much detailed about that you are going to study even here. And in this pandemic condition, we have started with the online classes. Make the best use of it, concentrate, note down the class points, prepare for it well, and we will all learn the concepts together. Okay, so we shall start with the class today. So the unit which I have chosen is a basic unit. However, the first unit is of basic concepts of chemistry. You will be uploaded with the video soon. So I have started with unit 2 now. I'll be starting unit 2, which is structure of atom. Why I chose this unit is because you know much about the basic structure of atom, or you have studied the concepts related to it, and that is why we shall go with that unit. Okay, it's unit 2. Structure of atom. So in the very first class, I'm not just jumping to the subject deep. So we will just go with the history related to structure of atom. It's very interesting. Okay. So when I say structure of atom, so you know, basically we have heard much about atom. We know what is atom or what it comprises of. But let me start with the history. Just go back where people had a basic idea of what atom is. Before starting with atom, let me tell you what is matter. Matter is anything that has mass and can occupy a particular space. Now say a chalk piece, a chalk duster, or say benches, chairs, or say a table. These are having mass and it can occupy a particular space. So we can call these as matter. So what is the definition of matter? We have already known it. Anything that has mass and can occupy space are termed as matter. Now we know matter consists of tiny particles called as atoms. Or what can I say? Matter comprises, means it contains atoms. Isn't it? We say atoms are building blocks. It is like brick of the building, where atoms combine to form any structure, say any element or any compound or any substance. The atoms are the building blocks, we say. So matter consists of atoms. So now let me tell you the history of this atoms. It's quite interesting to know that what idea we know today, what idea we have about atoms today, earlier people, they had a different idea about it. So gradually by improvements, by experimenting, by studying detailed about it, they got to know what exactly is was the structure of atom. Now to start with, let me start with the history of it. So at around 460 BC, at around 460 BC, a Greek philosopher by name Democritus, he gave basic idea of atom. He said there are particles which we can call as atoms, atomio it was called as, which means that those particles are the ultimate particles. What did he say? He said that atoms are ultimate. Ultimate means what? The final one. Atoms are ultimate. Ultimate means those are the final particles. You cannot divide those particles further. This it. Okay, fine. But though he had told them, but today when we hear, we know that yeah, it was true to some extent, as others also believed it. But when this person first said it in 460 BC, people were not ready to accept it. People said, where is the scientific proof? He didn't have scientific proof. So because of the loss of, or say, because he didn't have any scientific investigations to prove it, this to about 2000 years, 2000 long years, his idea was put aside. His idea was not accepted. But later, in the year 1808, John Dalton was the scientist who came out with an idea related to atoms. After 2000 years, Democritus had told, but people didn't believe, but because there was no scientific evidences for it. But then after that, in 1808, John Dalton proposed a theory called as atomic theory. So we say Dalton's atomic theory, or Dalton's theory of atoms. John Dalton proposed atomic theory. What did he say? He said the same thing. He said atoms are indivisible. You cannot further divide atoms. So let me note down some important points which John Dalton has explained. He said atoms are indivisible. Atoms are indivisible. That means he said atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. You cannot create an atom nor you can destroy an atom. That means they are like again ultimate particle. That is what it was meant. You cannot create atom nor destroy atom. And one more thing he said, atoms of same element. You know, right? Atoms combine to form one particular element. If suppose, for example, if I have to tell oxygen. Oxygen means which atoms has to combine? Many oxygen atoms has to combine to form oxygen molecule, isn't it? So, okay, this is just like for the picture of atoms I have told. Or say 2 oxygen atoms has to combine to form a molecule, right? So atoms are the basic constituent. So he said atoms of same element contains same kind of atoms or in general you can say same elements contain same kind of atoms, whereas different elements contain different kind of atoms. Contains different kinds of atoms. What does it mean? It means now if it is oxygen molecule, which atoms combine? Oxygen atoms combine. If it is nitrogen, then which atoms has to combine? Nitrogen atoms has to combine. So he said, see, atoms of same element has same kind of atoms, whereas different elements will have different type of atoms, he said. This was one more postulate of him, or in the theory, the next important point which he had mentioned. Then he said, are you getting the point? Then he said, if any chemical reaction has to take place, if any chemical reaction, say for example, hydrogen has to combine with oxygen to form water. He said, chemical reaction, if any chemical reaction has to take place, then it involves reorganization of atoms. Reorganization of atoms means association of atoms, he said. See, if water has to be formed, H2O is water. Water has to be formed, hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms has to undergo rearrangement or reorganization, we say, isn't it? That is what was told by Dalton. What is it? Chemical reactions involve reorganization of atoms. Reorganization of atoms. So these were the important postulate. There are some 4 to 5 important points in this particular Dalton's theory, which we'll be studying in basic concepts of chemistry in detail, which is very important again. So Dalton said much about atom. He said atoms are indivisible. If you take same element, then the same elements will have same kind of atoms. But if you take the different element, the atoms will be different. All that. And if chemical reaction has to take place, then reorganization of atoms has to take place. All these were told. Okay, fine, this was accepted. So they came to a conclusion, conclusion in the sense they accepted it, and further studies were done based on Dalton's atomic theory. They said, okay, we will consider that atoms are the ultimate particles, nothing more than that. So until when? Until the next scientists, like in 19th century or 20th century, most of the scientists has performed many experiments. So in that few datas which were available, they used his theory, isn't it? Dalton's atomic theory. But then they found that few reactions or experiments could not be explained by considering Dalton's theory. Then they had to give a thought for it. Now it is clear. Now it is that first Democritus said that atoms are indivisible, but people didn't accept, telling that no, you don't have scientific evidence, we are not going to accept it. Then came John Dalton in 1808. He said, see, I have a theory of atom, and here is what it tells. It tells atoms are indivisible. Okay, we have accepted. But in 19th and 20th century, few scientists, when they conducted experiments, this theory could not explain those experiments or those results. So the limitation is that, you see, Dalton's theory, it's not that it's useless. It explains law of conservation of mass. It explains law of definite proportion. It explains law of multiple proportion. But the other experiments could not be explained. So we will see which was the next one. Until when this theory was applicable was in 1830. In 1830, a scientist called Michael Faraday, he came with an experiment. He said, see, I have taken a solution which you can call as electrolytic solution. And so in that electrolytic solution, when you perform some experiment, then I can see that there are some reactions taking place. So when in 1830, Michael Faraday performed experiment. Okay, what experiment? I'll just draw a rough diagram of what actually he wanted to explain. He said he took a solution which is called as electrolyte. Electrolyte is nothing but which contains positively and negatively charged species. Now if you take NaCl, for example, if you take NaCl, it contains Na plus Cl minus ions, right? So electrolyte means which can dissociate, which can break down and form positive and negatively charged species. And metal electrodes were taken. Electrodes means it can be in the form of rod or in the form of thin plates also. Electrodes we say. Metal pieces. And then it was externally connected to the circuit. Say one was made positive, the other one was made negative. Externally connected to the circuit. When electricity is passed, it was found that some particles from one particular electrode, the particles got into the solution, and in the other electrode, the particles started getting deposited. That means at the electrodes, at one electrode, liberation was taking place. At one electrode, liberation was observed, and in another electrode, depositing means getting adhered to it, getting attached to it, in simpler words to say. So at one electrode, liberation was observed, at another electrode, deposition was observed. So now a question arises. Okay, see, we have Dalton's atomic theory, but Dalton's atomic theory says that atoms are ultimate particles. But here I guess there are some charged particles. So what idea did he get to know? He got to know that there is presence of some charged particles. This is what he got to know. Michael Faraday. And then they thought, okay, maybe Dalton's atomic theory is not applicable for this. You can't say Dalton's atomic theory being applicable for everything. So there is something called as charged particles. So this was again thought. So first idea, basic idea struck, that there are some particles which are charged also. Okay, fine. Then later in mid 1850s, say in 1850s, around 1850s, some scientists started performing the experiment further. So scientists like Eugen Goldstein, William Crookes, these also have performed experiments, though in the syllabus it's not in detail mention of what they have done. It's related to electricity field they have done. Why we are mentioning electric field is because, see, the charged particles which we today know as electrons, protons, neutrons, they didn't know then. That is why I'm telling you, go back to that stage where they didn't know or didn't have any idea about electrons, protons or neutrons. Okay, so Eugen Goldstein, William Crookes, especially Michael Faraday again. Michael Faraday, he wanted to go for detailed study. Now what he did is, he considered an apparatus and started conducting experiments which led to the discovery of electrons. So now what we are going to study is how the electrons were discovered. It's very interesting. We'll go with the diagram now, okay? So we shall see how electrons were discovered. So what was done? This Michael Faraday considered in around 1850s, He considered a glass tube. He considered a glass tube. We call it as evacuated glass chamber. Evacuated glass chamber, where at one end a small plate, metal plate was kept, and at the other end one more metal plate was kept. Okay, two metal plates at both the ends, and these were externally connected. These were externally connected to a high voltage. To a high voltage, it was externally connected. And here there was an opening. There was an opening to vacuum pump. Vacuum pump. And this particular one is negatively charged here, which is called as cathode. I have told you, no, there will be two electrodes, metal pieces. One is cathode and the other one is anode. This is positively charged, say anode. So this was a setup. The diagram is a rough one. What is this? This is a glass tube. Glass tube. And here to the vacuum pump, this is high voltage. Now what was done is, this particular glass tube inside, so I'll explain the setup of this. Michael Faraday used an apparatus called as cathode ray discharge tube. Cathode ray discharge tube. This is called cathode ray discharge tube, which consists of a glass tube in which two metal plates are placed. Two metal plates, P-L-A-T-E-S, plates are placed. One is cathode and the other one is anode. And this glass tube is connected to vacuum pump to maintain pressure. Why we are connecting to vacuum pump? Because we want less pressure. We do not want more air inside the glass tube. So we are removing all the gaseous particle, whichever is here, extra air is present, we are going to remove it, so as to maintain less pressure. If more gases are present, then pressure will be high. That is why we are connecting it to vacuum pump. And these metal plates or the electrodes are externally connected to high voltage. High voltage, we require high voltage and low pressure. Remember the conditions. What do we want? We require high voltage and low pressure is required. See, it's not that I am performing the experiment. Imagine Michael Faraday was performing the experiment, okay? Now what he did is, he took some gaseous substance. He took some gaseous substance inside the gaseous substance, some gas, say oxygen or nitrogen, some gas he had taken, filled it inside this. This vacuum pump removes excess of air. Now he has taken some material, some substance, say a gaseous substance is taken, and he passed electricity. When electricity is passed, that means when high voltage is applied, what happened was, he saw that some particles were moving from this left side to right side. That means from cathode side, negative charged electrode to positively charged electrode, some particles were moving. Now he was confused whether really there are some particles moving, because we cannot see through naked eye. Now here I have just shown the gaseous molecules, but in general, can we just have a look at the gases? No, we can't see the gases, isn't it? So he had imagination like there is some reaction taking place, but he was not sure of it. We ask for proof, isn't it? If he says like, yeah, there is some particle moving, we will ask like, okay, shows the evidence of it. So what he did is, he made a hole in the anode. He made a small hole in the anode, and behind the anode on the glass tube, he coated inside the glass tube, he coated with a phosphorescent material. Are you getting the point? What was done next? Next, high voltage was applied. High voltage was applied. He said particles move from negative electrode to positive electrode. Then he made a hole in the anode plate and coated the glass tube. Behind anode with some material. What material? Phosphorescent or fluorescent material. You know what is phosphorescent, fluorescent material? So you have observed those watches in which, see, in the sunlight you cannot see, but in dark when you see, you can see the radiations emitted, and so you can check out the radium watches which we say. See, there are some substances which can absorb radiation and it can emit after some time. So those substances comes under these category of phosphorescence or fluorescence. In television what actually happens is, when the radiation strikes a particular plate, after some time it just emits a beam of it. So the pictures are displayed. Okay. So he coated the glass tube behind the anode with some phosphorescent material. And which was that phosphorescent material? You know, it was zinc sulfide. ZNS. ZNS is zinc sulfide, coated with zinc sulfide. Now what happened? Was, he saw the particles were moving. Again he conducted the same experiment. Same setup, and he saw there are some particles. He could not see, but he got to know there are some particles which are moving from cathode to anode. And now since the hole is made, it can strike here, isn't it? There, the place where it struck, a bright spot was observed. What was observed? A bright spot was observed. Where the particle is striking, there you can see a glow, a bright glow or bright spot. Now he thought what actually it is. He had to know what it is.